going to the doctors. They'd been saying, push through, there's nothing wrong with you. By the
Right.
second day, I couldn't get on stage on my own conference. I just knew I couldn't. I knew I had to stop. I used to come back and I would be floored for weeks. I'd crash and then I'd keep
Mhm.
going and then I'd crash. For me, we're quite sure it was a reactivation of glandular fever that kicked it off. And then actually, without a doubt, it was the second COVID vaccine. Literally the day I had it was floated.
Mm.
Knocked me. I could barely function. My assumption was I was going to be in bed unless I was having a good day. Now,
Uh,
I assume I'm going to get up every day. And I do. This morning on my yoga mat, I was just sitting there, just literally so happy. And I feel so blessed. And I honestly believe I am going to be much healthier and happier than I would if
mm.
I'd not been ill. I don't spend any time with people that do not energize me. I'm not going to waste
Awesome.
my precious energy on that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Toby Morrison, the founder of CFS Health. And on today's video, we are so blessed to have Alisoun here from Scotland, who is sharing her chronic fatigue syndrome recovery journey with us. And not only that, but just your entire kind of journey through the whole process. And I can see a book behind you, and we just had a little chat about that. And just your endeavors in what you're doing now with your life is very inspiring and phenomenal. And so I just want to say a big thank you on behalf of, the team at CFS Health and all the members and all the people who get to watch this video and be inspired by you. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a bit surreal having watched so many of these when I first joined the clinic, to be sitting here now. But no, it's lovely to be able to change. So thank you to you and to everybody who's involved and listening, watching.
Mm. I asked you before off air, like what made you decide to do this interview? Because, so many people as they start to get better, they kind of just they don't really want to look back. They just want to keep moving forwards and, which is fair enough too. But I'm just curious, like, yeah, I'd love you to share what you shared with me before about like what motivated you to jump on this call and share your story and your journey so far.
Yeah. It was definitely driven by the fact that when I first signed up with the program, I needed to believe it was possible to recover. I knew a few people, but it was still the exception. And so I found watching and listening to these interviews just invaluable in believing it was possible for anybody to recover, and then me. So
Mm,
when I was, you invited me to come along, it was an absolute yes. My number one driver is to make a difference to others and to share the ups and downs of life and experiences. So yeah, totally.
mm,
I just
mm.
felt that if there's anything at all that I can share that ignites a spark in somebody else to do something different or to cope with things differently, then yeah, that this will have been worthwhile.
Yeah, good on you. Thanks so much for doing this. Like I said, it's really cool. I love hearing the backstory of everyone's reasons to say yes. Let's go back to the beginning before we met. What was going on in Alisoun's world? When you obviously before you got sick, what were you doing, and kind of when was that period of time that things started to change?
So now looking back, I think I can realize that it was about 15 years ago when I was starting to get ill. Um,
Mhm.
and at that point, I'd been running a full-time training, coaching, consultancy business for quite a number of years. And I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful, just take a bit of a break out of it. So started doing humanitarian work out in Rwanda with young genocide survivors. And
Wow.
it ended up being um, 9 trips over 5 years because it was a long-term project, and we were also getting a film made of the work that we were doing. Um, and every time I used to go out, it was it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Each trip was really difficult, really hard. Just even getting your very basic human needs met. It's the first time I've been challenged with that, as well as it being very emotional and
Yeah.
challenging work we were doing. But I used to come back and I would be floored for weeks.
Mm.
And we thought for the first few trips, we thought it was the anti-malarials. So I actually stopped taking the anti-malarial tablets.
Mm.
And but it was happening every single time, and I was also being more tired at home. So then you start to think, well, have I picked up a parasite? Is there something going on with what's happened out there? My business was online. I was UK based, but I had clients in America and Australia, which I look back and I just think bonkers because I was servicing them all myself. I wasn't like you with a team, you know. I
Yes.
just this, and I was exhausted working around the clock, and that I can remember burning out and just saying I have to just stop. So I had maybe 2 or 3 years where I managed to keep going, and then I'd crash, and then I'd keep going, and then I'd crash. And the final straw for me was in 2019. I hosted my own conference in Scotland. It was all about business for good. And it was a great event. It was wonderful. But I spent the last 6 months project managing the whole event from bed. And by the second day, I couldn't get on stage on my own conference. I literally had to put other people on. I was exhausted. And I remember standing up on the stage. And gosh, it's still actually it's quite emotional because I can remember standing up on the stage and I'd worked so hard to position myself and to build everything. And I knew that it wasn't going to be part of my future. I just had that sense, and I just said to
Yeah.
everybody, "I'm going to have to take time out. I don't know what's going to happen."
Mm.
So I did step back. I thought it was probably going to be 6 months. If I'm honest, I thought it'd be 6 months, and then I'd be back on the back up and running again. Didn't know what I'd be doing, but I thought I'd be back up and running, and I wasn't. I went to Cambodia, because I've run a couple of teams of people who've raised funds to build schools over in Asia, and was leading a group out in Cambodia at the end of 2019. And I was just floored for that trip. I could barely function. Luckily, my husband was there, and I was with a lot of people I knew. And again, I just thought, I've just got to stop. And that was the start of me really thinking, right, there's something seriously wrong here. I've got to stop the pattern. I'd
Yep.
been going to the doctors. They'd been saying, push through, push through. There's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
So everybody listening to this has probably had the same experience.
Well, yeah.
I just knew I couldn't. I knew I had to stop. But then it took me several years after that to I found another clinic beforehand, which was good, but this has been transformative. Everything here has been just, oh my, it's been a lifesaver for me, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll dive into that of like why that is for you, and I'm curious. And what's ringing to me, which is just really funny, is like you're not a lazy person. Like you're like the total opposite of a lazy person. Like the way that you're talking is just like all the incredible things that you've done, the business stuff, obviously, but then the humanitarian work and then the Cambodia. Like for me, it's just like, wow, like this is the perfect example, because I think it's just really unfair when you are such a go-getter and then you're told that you are just lazy. I think that's really unfair. And it can hurt. It really stings the ego, particularly when you are a goer and a giver. And I just honestly have never met someone who has chronic fatigue syndrome, who isn't like yourself in one way or another, whether it's being a mom or a business person or a go-getter, a go-giver, someone who kind of just doesn't sit on the couch, just not couch people. And I just wanted to say that because it's just like, as you're talking, I'm just like, okay, this woman has done a lot of stuff, and certainly isn't, you took every opportunity that you could by the sounds of it.
And it's not till you start to repeat it back, you go, oh, gosh, it's no wonder you were ill, Alison.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's,
you don't know what you don't know
at the time. You don't know at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so you kind of from 2019. Can I ask how old were you then?
I've got to work out how old I am now and then work back.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah,
21.
So 50. I'm 57 now.
Age is a number.
So early 50s.
51. Yep. Cool. Helpful.
Which actually is an interesting point because actually for a female that also brings in all the menopause stuff. So that was also lots of menopause, kicking about. Because
what the hell's going on? Okay, so early 50s, things are starting to go downhill. You finally stopped, which is good. Did you go down did the doctor diagnose you with chronic fatigue syndrome? Were you able to get you couldn't even get a diagnosis in Scotland?
Didn't get a diagnosis, but interestingly, I did start to ask them for all my test results for everything, and it had on it chronic fatigue. They just didn't tell me.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. But they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to
No,
do.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you did get diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, which is, even though they didn't tell you, which is pretty poor form. We won't mention who it was or anything like that, but this stuff frustrates me so much when I hear stories like this. It's so friggin' annoying. We're changing it at CFS Health. We're kind of changing
Yeah.
the landscape of the medical system. So shout out to the great doctors who do care and do have empathy and do, diagnose properly. So you got diagnosed, which probably, well, yeah, in hindsight, you weren't, but you were, which would have been really difficult trying to navigate what the hell's going on with you. When you're a proactive woman, all right, so you obviously didn't muck around. So you obviously went to a different clinic. You mentioned that you started with a couple of different clinics around your area or something.
Yes, yes. So there's a clinic in London which is very good. They've got a program. Just it's different. It's a different
Mhm.
kind of program. So actually, a lot of that bit was around, the healthy eating and lots of personal medical tests, which I'm
Right.
glad I had because, I know how my body responds to the sugar, and we made sure there were certain things were not wrong, and so it was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But the ongoing support wasn't there in the same way.
The accountability and the consistency and things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah. It was different. So it was good, but it was just different.
Yeah.
And I do remember because I can remember very clearly being in a hotel room in Slovenia and just thinking I can't continue like this.
Yeah.
I found that I was with them for about a year, but I didn't really get a big shift. I got helpful information, but I wasn't really getting a shift. And part of that was me
Mm,
not really, I say I stopped. I was still I mean, all the way through, I've had maybe two or three clients. I've never completely stopped until really now.
mhm,
But
mhm.
um, it's, I would say when I joined your program, I got more committed to it, and it was more of a part of everyday life. That's what I got better. I got better at showing up for myself and being a lot more consistent. And
Yeah. So, and that's the hardest part. We always say you have to participate in your recovery. You can't be a passenger in your recovery. You have to put 2 feet in and participate in it for it to change and for your body to change and for your brain to change. So it makes total sense. When did you find us and how did you find us? I can't remember.
I think it must have been a Facebook ad. I'm
Oh,
sure it
wow.
popped up several times, and I kept thinking, oh, but I've already done a program and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And at that point, actually, I was with another clinic. It's a clinic here. So I started using medicinal cannabis, which actually did make a big difference as well. But of course, I didn't have the framework around how I was approaching life right.
Yeah.
So
And
that was
recovering.
almost
Yeah.
too soon. Although it did help with some symptoms. So that was quite helpful, but I don't take that now. But no, it was a Facebook ad, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So you
Um,
clicked on that, you watched a few free trainings, I'm
uh,
assuming.
had a
Yeah.
call. I mean, I knew pretty much as soon as I watched, I think, the first training, then I had a call, then came on in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And it was fun. I can remember, it's typical for, I suppose, so many people on the program. I can remember not be, where you restrict access to different modules.
Yes, yeah, because what happens with most people that we work with obviously are real go-getters, and so we particularly the first 30 days, really only we do it for the first 30 days now. It was probably longer back then, but it's just to make sure that you don't go and log in and then watch all the trainings and then overwhelm yourself and then do nothing with it, because it's just like, you try and do everything all at once.
Which I was desperate to do. I can remember feeling so frustrated. I'm thinking,
Ah,
I just want to do this. Want to do this.
that's so
And of course,
interesting.
but that is, again, it's that piece of
That's
me
why
that
we
won't let
slow
me
you
in.
down. Exactly. Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah.
so interesting? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we're really big on it. We've got a whole 30-day accelerator process now for all new members when they come in, and it's this process just to get on track fast, basically. And it's the bare minimum, most minimum effective dose to get everyone's baseline right, to formulate their routine and structure, and then they can start to make progress quicker. Whereas, when you try and do everything all at once, you get nowhere fast, and that's why people stay stuck forever, because they just keep going around in circles. So interesting. That's cool that you picked that up. So yeah, you had that feeling of like, I've joined, I just need to do everything right now. And then, yeah, you didn't do that, which was good. What were some of the things that, like, Like, did some pennies drop fast for you where you're like, ah, that's what I've been missing or lacking, and then you implemented it and noticed some changes
Um,
early on?
Early on, ooh, what was it? I mean, I
What clicked
remember.
early on for you that you needed help with? Like, what was the
I
thing?
think what I needed help with was there was a little bit of baseline, but I'd kind of got to a certain point. It was just my baseline was very, very low. So I needed to understand because I was in bed most days. And so I would say, even until the beginning of this year, my assumption was I was going to be in bed unless I was having a good day. Now
Uh,
I assume I'm going to get up every day, and I do.
yes,
Um,
yes, 100%.
but that came from realizing that it was okay to start doing a little bit of exercise. And even if it was, I mean, I can remember the first 2 or 3 months, like getting on my yoga mat is my anchor. So if I can get in my yoga mat, um, I know the rest of the day I stand a better chance the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
For so long, I wasn't even getting up to lie down on my yoga mat. I was just in
Mm,
bed.
resting, resting,
Then I
resting.
started doing meditation. I'm trained as a yoga teacher, so I can kind of just go with the flow. I don't teach it; I just use it for myself. So I'm quite
Mm-hmm.
comfortable on the mat. But even then, I could barely do anything. And so I think the biggest shift for me actually was through the fitness piece,
The movement mastery.
the movement mastery,
Yeah, rebuilding and
and
reconditioning your
the
body.
and that piece and building the strength. Because again, the mindset stuff, there's been some absolute nuggets, but again, I'm trained in a lot of that stuff. So I've
Yeah,
been using
yeah,
that, and I'd already created chronic fatigue journals. So I was following, but I was probably actually at that point, I was probably stuck on the symptoms and
okay,
where I
yeah,
was with
interesting.
symptoms rather than focusing on what to do to be better.
Yes, perfect. Okay, that was the penny drop then, because this is where like so many people get stuck, and I think this will be really helpful for people listening. Is so a lot of and you did it too. Like you think you just have to rest, 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 rest to get better, right? But then you just don't get better, and it's that sweet spot of like you're not doing too much, but not doing too little. But there's a moment where when you're resting, 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 and you think you just need to rest to get better, you're so symptom focused
Yeah.
like you can't even see the world and the future. Basically, you're just so focused on the symptoms, and it's an overprotection mode. And so when the penny drops and the change of focus switches to health focused approach, then you can rebuild your strength and stamina. And rebuilding your strength and stamina then allows for more capacity, and then that capacity allows you to do more without feeling any worse than you currently do. Right? Like that's the process, but it's so hard. Like you can kind of get it, but like until you're doing it, because doing it can be feeling it's scary. You got to have courage. What did you feel any of that? Like the fear and the
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely scared that by doing the physical, I was going to set myself back. But
yeah.
actually, it took me, I couldn't believe how long it took me to be able to really get going with the physical.
Well, if you hadn't been doing it for a few years, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was a surprise because I was very fit before. I'd run a half marathon. Probably, I think it was about 2018 or something. I was fit. I was used to doing things, and so
Yeah.
that was a real shock, and to realize that muscle wastage, and how important it is to do that strength building so we have the capacity. That was a massive aha for me. So I think, and then at some point, I heard somebody on a call say that it's this balance between when you're pushing through and when you're not. And somebody said, yeah, but even when you're tired, you can still do, if you feel up to it, listen to your body, but you can still do the strength building. And that was a
100%. Yeah.
switch for me because I was just like,
Yes.
wow, okay. I wouldn't have done that before for fear that was pushing through,
Exactly. Yeah.
but it
Yes, I
wasn't
remember that with
about
you.
building
I
strength.
remember that with you. Yes.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
is so brilliant. And by the way, when we're talking about like exercise, we don't use the word exercise at CFSL. We use movement because movement can be gentle, it can be restorative, it can be rebuilding and reconditioning. But it's funny though, like, you know, you, for a while you were comparing your marathon persona and fitness level to where you're at now, which is just, you can't do that. Like,
I mean,
it's just ridiculous, and And this is why it can feel so low, because you're like, oh my God, how embarrassing. This is where I'm starting, you know? And it's like, no, you just have to start with wherever your body's at right now, and you just freaking build it from there. And that's why we have like 12 levels of movement mastery, from level 1 to total beginner. You can do it from your bed all the way up to, you know, advanced training, so you can go be a freaking ballerina or a, you know, sports person, or ride horses or hike mountains, like whatever everyone's doing, you know, like this, everyone's got so many different goals and stuff. Um, okay, that's cool. I think that's, for me, I'm really happy that you're saying this, because personally, it's one of the biggest fundamentals that most people miss in their recovery. Like, they just don't take it seriously enough, the movement piece, to recondition the body, because that is ultimately the biggest thing that's going to build capacity and resiliency, you know. And ultimately what we're doing is it just literally helps the brain and the body adapt to new stimulus appropriately, so you don't feel worse, you know. How did you stay consistent with that though? Because like, I think consistency is a real tough thing to maintain.
I'm pretty good at well, I'm pretty good at taking action, and I couldn't do the big stuff,
I can
so
see that.
the little stuff. And I do. I mean, I had developed sort of journals anyways that I could then just
Okay.
tick to say I'd done stuff and keep on top of it. And
Like
I,
a habit tracker?
yeah. I just had created my own sort of version of that, and so I was just doing that.
Awesome.
And it, you know, I wasn't. I think the important thing was using it as a way of tracking, but not. I wasn't beating myself up if I couldn't do it all. I was just saying, right, this is just an observation. I'm just tracking what I am doing and going back. And actually, I find it really useful, even now, to go back through trackers and to go back through my journaling and to see what I was saying and see how things have shifted. There have been massive shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, getting up and actually getting into the habit of getting up has made a massive difference, as
Routines
well
like
as
that.
going to bed much earlier and really putting my, you know, yeah, so going to, once I started to get up, was making, you know, giving myself permission to have a nap, and I still do that. But also going to bed early. I very rarely say yes to a night out. Most things are during the day, but I find that that pattern is working for me just now until I've built up more capacity.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Cool. So good. What are two other things that you found like really useful? You mentioned before off air, like you did 2 different clinics and then you came to us and it was like, it made the biggest difference. Why was that? Like, what were the things that came like for you that helped the most?
I like the calls, in terms
The
of
expert coaching calls or the win the month planning calls?
sort of both the one-to-ones and the group calls, whether it's the win of the month or you know, the Q&As, or, you know,
Yeah.
generally the calls. And there's some great resources in there, but I think the calls and connecting with others is important. And that's the bit that was missing. So with the other clinic, it was one-to-ones, which was lovely, but
No
it wasn't the same
context.
kind of connect and support as you get in a group. So it's different. It's different.
Why do you think it was powerful for you to see other people on the journey? Like, because a lot of people don't know what it's like. They're scared of it. They're like, oh, I don't want to meet other people going through this.
It helps you realize you're not alone. It helps you realize there are so many people dealing with the same things you are. And a lot of the time, I think because by the time I joined, I wasn't at my lowest point. So, you know, I realized I'd also made progress, because there were some people that were in a much worse position when I joined, and still are within the group. But you feel the compassion for, and you can, when you're in a group where you have people that are like you, some people that are way ahead and some people that are, you know, just earlier on in their journey of recovery, I think it helps you put things into perspective as well. You
Mm,
know, you know, you have hope for where you can be, but you also realize how far you've come,
yeah.
you know, as you move on that journey. While at the same time, it's really nice to be able to offer support or share ideas with people
Mm,
that
mm,
are on a similar journey.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
True.
the calls definitely made a difference. And I loved you did a workshop at the beginning of the year And I still listen to the healthy visualization most days.
With Corinne?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, wow. I'll
You
let
know,
her know. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, that was a
so I
great
still
workshop.
do that. And I sometimes do quantum jumping, which is where you actually jump into the body of the person and you sort of do all that sort of
Visualization. Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah, yeah.
visualization in real life, in physical terms. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that just made sense for me. And I was like, and so I'm still doing that. And that's
Cool.
interesting how that evolves. But, just, yeah. Yeah, those are probably the main things.
Yeah, a little bit more community and high
Yeah,
touch points.
definitely community.
Um, yeah, problem shared is a problem halved, as my
Yeah.
father would say to me. Um, you mentioned mindset before, and you've obviously like trained in this with your background, and you've written some books, which is cool. We'll get into that in a moment. What were some of the mindset shifts that had to happen for you in order for you to change your life?
Acceptance.
Tell me
Acceptance.
about that.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it was actually, even before acceptance, was the relief that that not that there was something wrong with me, but that there was, and I don't like labels, but a name for what was
No,
wrong with me. There was a
yeah,
way in which I could
100%.
move through it. Before it
Absolutely.
even got to, it was that because you spend so much time thinking, is there
What the
something,
hell is it?
what
Yeah.
is going on,
Yep.
And I think for me, we're quite sure it was a reactivation of glandular fever that kicked it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, without a doubt, it was the second COVID vaccine. Literally the day I had it was floored,
Mm.
knocked me. And my cousin's a COVID and vaccine specialist, and she did say she said, Alison, it'll have reignited COVID that you already had in your body because we were monitoring the antibodies. So we had a bit of information, but to know it was a real illness, that helped. But it was then the acceptance that, yes, so, right, okay, I am ill and there's something I can do. There isn't any one quick fix, right? Okay, we can accept that. Um, but bigger than that, and I'm very privileged that I know that I was able to step back from work. We were in a position where my husband could support me while I was ill, and he's been phenomenal in every way of support. That I was able to step back a lot more and begin to really focus on just recovery while also just sometimes exploring, well, what could a new life be? I was sort of letting go of what my old life was. I have
Mm.
no intention of going back to that place, never.
Mm.
Probably compounded because my husband has literally just this weekend retired. So
Wow.
we're going into a new stage of life, which is
Beautiful.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But it was acceptance that I think the big piece is that your life will never be the same. Doesn't mean that we can't do a lot of the things that we did before, but I think certainly for me, I will approach things differently. At the
Mm.
moment, I don't feel inclined to run another half marathon. But you never know. I don't know what will happen in the future. It's not something that I crave, whereas before I probably would have done. I
Mm.
don't Yeah, I don't aspire to any of the things I used to. It's much more a simple life, which I'm much, much happier. I actually, this morning on my yoga mat, when I was setting the intention for the day, I was just sitting there, just going, I am so happy, despite the fact I'm still not fully, I'm just literally so happy. And I feel so
Mm.
blessed that I have come this far, that I can see there is hope. I am
Mm.
absolutely, um, I see the other mindset shift is not to be doing things from a point of recovery anymore. I see it as
Yeah.
forming healthy habits for the rest of my life. And I honestly believe that the couple of years I've got left in my 50s and going into my 60s and 70s, I am going to be much healthier and happier than I would have
Mm-hmm.
had I not been ill. And I honestly do believe that despite this illness being awful in so many ways, that I've probably managed to avoid something more critical because I'm so much more focused on my health in every way. And that's the gift. That's one of the greatest gifts. Well, that is probably the greatest gift to me.
Mm.
definitely. Yeah.
Powerful. I always say, recovery doesn't have to be forever, but health is forever.
Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
shift that happens on people's recovery, which is it's already happened with you, which is great, where you become so recovery focused for a period of time, which is important. You have to do that. But then as you start to get better, the shift happens, and we call this integrating into life, as you know, and lifestyle integration. And that's when we let go of the recovery focus and then move towards integrating into life, which is more of a health focused situation, which is kind of nice because it's more relaxed. It's not so magnified glass on you and, the day and every hour and all that kind of stuff. You kind of let go of that because you can. And it's more of a relaxed approach just by being healthy. Like you said, I feel better going to bed earlier, so I will. Now, if you want a late night, you can have a late night, but you'll probably just do the right things the next day to look after yourself and feel good. It's like healthy people don't drink. I'm a friend who's never had chronic fatigue syndrome says, oh man, when I drink alcohol, I just feel so depressed. I feel like crap. It takes me 4 days to feel good again. And he's a healthy person, right? And so he avoids alcohol, which is a smart, healthy choice. So, there's no wrong or right. It's just like what's right for you and where you feel best at. And I think, chronic fatigue syndrome teaches that gift, if you're willing to receive it. And I think it makes sense that you can receive it because you accepted it.
Mm.
And I don't think you can receive the gift if you haven't accepted the.
No, I think you're absolutely right, actually. And acceptance wasn't a thing that was on my radar, I would say, before I came to the clinic.
Mm.
So I think that was probably one of the biggest shifts that I needed to make, and I did make. I think I made it fairly early on, having the confidence.
How do you was there a coaching session? Because I just think some people, was it just a matter of time and being in the program and seeing other people accept their
I
reality
think
and then
it was being in
changing
the program and probably hearing it a few different ways,
it?
through a video and then
Yeah.
being on a call and then,
Yeah.
you can start to see the similar threads that are coming out, on the calls and the advice that's being given.
Yeah.
And so
Totally.
I think it was because I was so immersed in doing all the videos and coming to all the calls and, doing all of that, that
Mm.
it was drip fed in different ways that eventually I just went, oh yeah, no, you accept this, that's okay. But I don't think I accepted it when I joined. Looking back, I don't think
Of course, yeah, it's a very common that doesn't happen until probably two-ish months into the program. Some people longer. That's why I really wanted to hone in on acceptance, because I really do feel like that can be people's biggest bottleneck in their recovery, of just getting over the fact that
that
they
it's,
just have to start with where they're at, because once you start with where you're at, you meet yourself with where you're at, then you can move forwards. And until you do that, you can't.
and I think acceptance is a really important piece around, because I'm somebody who's practiced gratitude for years and years and years, and I can find the gratitude in even some of the most horrific of situations
Oh, I
that
bet,
I
yeah.
have experienced in life. And I do, I remember just when I got the phone call, that my dad died a couple of years ago, and I got the phone call, and I can remember I was overseas, and I just sat and I wrote a list of all the things I was grateful for about him. And I didn't know if I was going to get home in time to see him. I did, which was lovely. But I did that to put myself into a better emotional state. And then it was lovely because I was able to come back and I actually read it to him when he, in hospital. So that was really special. But gratitude, there is a difference between gratitude and acceptance. So I had all the way through being ill, I would look at the gratitude for the situation.
Okay. Yep.
Every, each day or each week or each month as I was reflecting. But gratitude almost, there's something more neutralizing about acceptance.
Correct. Yeah, you're not trying to turn a negative into a positive.
Exactly.
You're just staying
You're just
neutral with, this
accepting
is my
what
current
is.
reality. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
You're not trying to make anything different. You're looking at it from a point, right, okay, this is where I am. And that's the piece I hadn't done, which actually I don't think I really realized that distinction until we, just having this conversation just now about, the difference between the two.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sigh of relief, acceptance,
Oh, it's huge.
which is healing in itself. Okay, this is great. how long have you been on the recovery since when did you join the clinic to now? How long has it been?
Exactly a year.
Oh wow, congrats.
I think it's
Happy
13
year.
months. It might be 13 months. It might be March, but yes, it's
Yeah,
pretty
cool.
much a year.
Cool, amazing. And this is like the typical time that we see people start to really see progress. You know what I mean? Like 9 to 12 month mark is when the true, solid, tangible progress happens. Tell me what you're up to now. You've got a bunch of books. You said to me before. You said off air. I was like, tell me about your book. You're like, oh yeah, writing a book's just like not really a thing for me. It's not a hard thing to do. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, I just decided to write another book. I was like, I've never heard. I've written one book. I'm in getting the second one published at the moment, and it's not easy. And you're just like, oh, just like it's like breakfast for me. So tell me about what you've been up to.
Easy. I mean, it's hard work, but there's a lot of work. But once I think once you know the process, it's easier than it might.
I think you've got a talent. I think you're very talented. Let's just acknowledge your gifts, right?
But what I'm going to put out there for people watching and listening this is English was my worst subject at school. It completely baffled my dad how I had books published. He just couldn't understand it. But yeah, so that really came from, so I published my first book in 2014 and another one in 2017. And then it must have been about 2 years ago. One of the things I did when I was in bed was I just did a course to learn how to create journals. And that's how I ended up creating a tracker, effectively, and a couple of other bits and piece journals that I've created as well. And because I did that, I thought, well, now I know how to actually I know how to write a book and I know how to now upload everything. So why don't I I had COVID at the beginning of last year for a few weeks and I was really ill. And I thought, I have streamed everything I can stream. I have read books. I've done every course I can, when you're stuck in bed and it's just like, oh, what am I going to do to keep myself occupied? And actually, more than that, it was to give my days meaning.
Yes.
That was one of the hardest things, was every day was a blur. My husband worked away, usually most Mondays to Fridays. So I was at home alone during the week and pretty housebound. So I wanted
That's
something.
powerful. Give my days meaning.
Yeah, I had to have something to give a day meaning. And it wasn't necessarily results or action focused, because sometimes it was just reading about a topic or, researching something. But I'd delivered in, it must have been about 2022, 2023. I decided that when I was going to recover, I was going to just do something that was, reverting back to what I found easier and was less onerous on me, which was online courses and things. So I had created a course around friendship, which had come out of another course, because people on the other course had been saying they didn't have any friends and would I do a course around friendship. So I ran a few events and online courses around friendship, and I just could not believe the demand for it. I was really, shocked and saddened that so many people, and a lot of people who I knew who appeared on the outside to have lots of friends, they were coming and saying, we just don't, or I don't like all my friends. And so I intended to recover much quicker than I have. And the intention was that would be what I was then going to go out with more. But then, of course, I got ill. So I stopped running that course. So for me, I suppose that's the other aspect of, I already had the online course on the topic.
Yeah. So the book came really easy to you. Grab the book and put it to the front of the screen so we can see it. So it's called Nourishing Friendships.
Nourishing Friendships, How to Make Friends You Love in Midlife and Beyond. So it's all about making friendships, but actually it's all about maintaining, nurturing, ending, every aspect of friendship.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Where can people buy that, just if someone wants to get it?
Yeah.
Amazon. Great. Cool. I think it's a great topic. When I saw it on our private group and I messaged you, I was like, oh, this is such a good topic. I think it's a really powerful topic to do. So you've published a book. What else have you done in the last few months that excites you and ignites you?
So this is coming from a place where I've promised myself I'm not going to really do too much else the next few months because I realise this is a repeating pattern.
Yes.
So I published that on the 28th of October, but it was also awkward because one of my best friends that day, we discovered she was dying, we knew she had cancer, but it was the same day that we knew she was literally had weeks to go. So I felt really quite awkward about taking that out, and it was a bit of it was a very challenging time. And 2 weeks before, I'd signed up to do sound healing training online through a place in Bali called Pyramids of Chi, which I just adore. It's one of my favourite places in the world. I've been there quite a few times specifically to go and spend time at the pyramids, and they were offering training. And I did that really for myself because I understood the science of the benefits of sound, from especially for chronic fatigue. And I've loved that. It's again, it
That's
gave
cool.
yeah, it gave me something to do. It was a challenge because I then needed to do one-to-one sessions to get my qualification and run a sound bath and everything. But even then, I look back in January and I would do one session a week and it would floor me. By getting into February, I was able to do 2 sessions a week. It wouldn't floor me straight away, but that was me at capacity. I thought I was only going to do that for myself, but I can see that in the future, I probably will do some one-to-ones and some sound baths. Not many, because actually we are about to embark upon 2 or 3 months of travel.
Right.
Which involves, we've got a camper van, which actually works really, really well for me. My husband's very active and I can just lie down in the back and have a rest of the afternoon and he can do it.
Yeah.
But we're going to the Arctic on a cruise, which if I hadn't been I was thinking about this morning, if I hadn't been part of this clinic last year, because we booked it last year, with the belief that I could recover, I don't think we would have booked this. Because it is a big investment when you're not 100%. But I did my research, I really looked into it, and I'm so excited about it. And I know
It'll be great. I've heard so many good things about it too.
Yeah. So, but I would never have booked that a year ago. Never. Until we did it. It was just not until I came to the clinic. I wouldn't have booked it before I'd come to the clinic because I wouldn't have had the confidence that I would be well enough to go. But I'm managing things like saying, look, I won't be having even meals in the evening with everybody, but I'll do stuff during the day, and that's
just
fine.
called body wisdom. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, just based on what you need.
So it's a mixture of travel, a little bit of possibly sound healing. I have launched a blog called Adventurous Aging, which is about making the most of this second chapter of life. But there's no press, it's just going to be sharing travels, insights. It is up and running, but I'm just publishing stuff as and when. And
great.
we'll see.
Amazing. The world is your oyster.
It comes anymore,
You've got a canvas. I like it. And you're just painting as you go.
Yeah. I think what I've definitely learned is that you learn this anyway, I think, through life, and particularly when you lose people close to you. But also it's been definitely intensified and under the magnifying glass with chronic fatigue is I'm just not going to waste an ounce of energy on doing things that don't bring me joy, that don't help, don't have a purpose. So if the purpose is, I need to earn a little bit of money, right, I'll do that. But, I'll aim to do it through a way that is also joyful, if possible.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah, and I know that sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes we just have to go out, and we've all done that at different times, But where possible, bring the joy in. But particularly around people, I don't spend any time with people that do not energize me now. I just don't. I'm not going to waste my precious energy on that.
Awesome. I freaking love that. So your boundaries have been really solid through.
Oh, I've loved, and that's maybe been a little bit of a mindset shift because I think we can fall into it becoming a really good excuse not to do things. Certainly for me it was. I was like, oh, thank God I've got chronic fatigue. It means I don't have to go and do that. It means I can say no without having to explain myself anymore.
Becomes a secondary benefit. Your secondary
exactly. It's totally became a secondary benefit. Whereas now, it's less like
you don't need it anymore. Yeah.
Don't need it. So just let go.
You don't need it because you're empowered and you can make the choices when you want to, based off how you want to feel and who you want to hang out with, which is freaking powerful. Yeah, and not feel bad about it as
and not
well.
feel bad. So letting go of the secondary benefits has been a
Amazing. Yeah, we have a workshop on that called this, How to Let Go of Secondary Gains. And, you know, a lot of people get stuck in those patterns that no longer serve them and keep them stuck. And so I'm so glad you went through that and you let it go, because you're such an empowered woman now, you know. There's no secondary gain
actually, I
needed.
think I do feel that now. I didn't for a
You
while.
are. I can hear it. I can feel it through your voice. So I think you've always been. I think it's just you've got a voice for yourself now. It's not just what you do; it's who you are. There's the difference. You know,
That is
that's
so true. Yeah,
yeah,
so true.
that's the difference. Like, because you're always a go-getter and you've had that outwardly, but I think there's a voice with your inner self now that's like even stronger, and it's like that's the priority first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I'm far more authentic to me now and far
Yes.
more, well, you can take it or leave it. You know, this is who I am.
Freaking
And
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So good. Thank you for sharing all this. I've got two little questions to wrap this up. Number one, there's people watching this who maybe don't believe in recovery, they're doubtful. You know, they could even be in the program right now. You know, still like, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Am I going to get better? What would you like to say to anyone who's struggling right now?
Definitely watch as many of the videos like this and other videos within the
Mm.
portal, which help you believe it's possible to recover. You know, in order for us to recover, we have to believe it's possible for other people, and then we can start to believe it's possible for us. So definitely open your eyes to the possibility. You know, start doing things like the visualization every day around, you know, you living that healthy life again, whatever that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And focus on the things that you can do each day. It doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, I think it took a
Well said.
while for me to learn that consistency, like on my little checklist, I used to have 10 things. And I used to think I wasn't being consistent if I didn't do all 10 things. No, being consistent was showing up. Being consistent was paying attention to my body wisdom and doing what on of those 10 things I feel I can do today. And
Oh,
that's what I focused in on.
have flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Be
Flexibility with
flexible.
consistency. Well done. Yeah, you're saying all the right. Yes, you know, this is you're preaching to the choir here, as they say. You know, it's just it's you're living it. You know, and you've lived it, and you're doing
And I
it.
would say to some people, just don't give up, keep going. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
Occasionally, you know, I'll still have a little day where I have a little, you know, you do have the doubts occasionally, you know, you're having a
Hmm.
bad day, but everybody, I think the thing is, healthy people have bad days too. So,
Yeah.
so you know, it's just pick yourself up. And I think the power of journaling is important, actually, so that you can see how far you've come and the
Hmm.
shifts. Okay.
Well said. There's some damn good tips in here. There was more than one. There's like five good nuggets right there. It's brilliant. I feel like this is super valuable. And lastly, there's a bunch of people who are watching this and considering joining the program, but still have their doubts. They're worried. You know, maybe they've tried two other clinics before, just like you did. What advice, if any, would you share with someone who's considering joining the CFS Health Clinic?
I would just say go for it. Honestly, this has, and I can't remember if I've said this before we went on air or during this, but it's been a lifesaver for me. Um, absolutely. I'd say give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose and just so much to gain from signing up, joining, and being part of a very supportive community with fantastic
Yeah.
resources. Everybody is just your cheerleader, and it's so nice to be surrounded by people who get you instead of feeling like the odd one out in your own life.
Yeah, shout out to all the CFS Health members. You're amazing across 75 countries right now. Yeah, well said. Alison, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are amazing. You know, it's funny, like what you've done in your life's pretty cool. I mean, and you have barely shared any of those stories. I can imagine you've got thousands of stories of like all the things that you've done. But what I'm most proud of is who you are as a person, like your inner self. Like for me, that's the rich life, and that's where the luxury really is, that inner self. And yeah, it's just really it's a pleasure to witness it in front of my very own eyes. So yeah, it's just amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you, Toby. And likewise, and I think everybody watching this and listening to this, we all have that within us. It's just about reconnecting, isn't it? It's about rediscovering that and who that is for each of us in our lives and what the future could hold for us.
Well said. Well, I'm looking forward to watching your life unfold in your second chapter. And yeah, we'll leave some links below as well for your book and all that. And yeah, really, really pumped for your trip overseas and just what's ahead. It's going to be amazing. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big
Thank
love.
you very much.
Thanks, Alison. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.